Good morning. My name's Alicia Newell, and I am serve as the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs at Wichita State University. And today's Tuesday Talk with Care. We'll be discussing how to manage stress, time, and more importantly, your energy. And so these are some things that obviously during the stay home order, I've been spending a lot of time reaching out and talking with students and checking in on them to see how they're doing and actually managing their time or not. And have found that it's not really the normal day to day stress that students would typically feel. It's a different type of stress. And so we're going to talk today about how do you manage that, and then what are some things that we can do in order to practice mindfulness and making sure that we are staying healthy and keeping a good routine. And so first off, we're going to start with stress. I don't know about you, but this whole pandemic has caused a whole nother level of stress to come in. Your schedules are changing, your work is changing, classes are changing, and it's just an entirely different adjustment to life. And anytime we have to take these huge shifts of, adjusting, it throws us off. And so and what I found is that, when I'm stressed, is really just making sure that I take time to pause. And I don't think we do that enough, and it's taking time to pause to say, I know I'm not okay. I know that I'm snapping at, my partner or my child, my friends, and this is not my normal behavior. And so giving yourself permission to pause. And what are some things that you can do differently? If there's things that you do different or utilize to help manage your stress, drop them in the chat box and share with us, because I think there's power in sharing what works for other people. What works for me may not work for you. And so let us know, what are some things you do to practice managing your stress. Some examples that I'll give you. The first one is obviously making sure we have a balance of both mental and physical health and wellness, right? And so making sure that we're staying active, making sure that we're getting up, we're getting out, we're getting fresh air, and we're getting that daily exercise in order to making sure that we have that level of stress management. So an example of how we exercised at my house yesterday, I have a 13-year-old daughter who is an athlete. And she is out and about every day, loves to run, play, hates watching TV. And so I am constantly trying to come up with different ways on how can I keep her physically active during this time while staying safe. And so yesterday we found water balloons in the garage, and we blew them up, and we had batting practice in the front yard with water balloons. And so just little things, running up and down the street, riding a bicycle, taking a walk. There's, a lot of things that we can do to still making sure that we're practicing, safe distancing, while also getting some of those recommended stress management tips in place. The other thing that's really important is making sure that, when we're stressed, a lot of times our minds tend to go to another place and think of all of the things that can go wrong or that are going wrong, or I'm not going to meet a deadline. I can't believe, this type of, my instructor, I can't get a hold of them. And there's all of this high stress and anxiety. But really reminding yourself to stay positive. And so last week or a few weeks ago, we talked about the power of positive self-talk and how critical important it is in making sure that that little mindfulness of making sure that we're okay and reiterating that and reassuring that we're in control of what happens is really critical. And so making sure that you're staying positive, and if you see negativity beginning to creep in, knowing what is it that I can do in order to shut it down. And so making sure that you're being positive and using a positive self-talk in your daily routines. Another one is practicing relaxation techniques. This is one that my boss is really practicing, and I wish I could, but I can't get into it. But it's finding she likes doing yoga. And so, she gets up at 6 a.m. and she's, doing her yoga, and she's talking to us about it. And, for her, that's a great way for her to relieve her stress. And so also remember that what works for one person may not work for everybody. So you have to find what works best for you. Okay. Other things is meditation. And so taking time out again, just to pause and say, I need to go to a quiet place. I have a hammock in the backyard. And so my quiet place to help me manage my stress and just kind of decompress, I'll go outside and I will lay in my hammock for 10, 15 minutes and I'll just be still. And knowing that that's what I need at that moment in order just to kind of regroup and come back together. The last thing that I'll say in regards to stress management is being willing to accept that there are events that are happening beyond our control right now. And there are things that are throwing us out of our day-to-day, and understanding that the things that are happening that are out of our control, we have to accept it for what it is and be willing to move forward. And so again, when we talk about the power of positivity, is understanding that things are different or may look different, and it's okay. And it's okay for our schedules to change. It's okay for stress to go up and down, as long as we remain in control of that. And so remember that although things are out of our control, we are still in control in regards to how we choose to move forward with that. The next thing I want to talk about in regards to our topic is time management. So any of my students who know me know that I function 99.9% in mom mode. I am that person. And so when I'm calling in, I'm checking in, I'm asking, how are you managing your time? What does your schedule look like? So if I were to ask some of you, what does your current schedule look like? I'm curious to see what you would say. Are you still waking up at the same time for class? Are you logging into, your Blackboard account at specific times of days? Are you still working? Has your work schedule changed? What are some different things that you're recognizing that you no longer had time for because it may not exist? Or what are some things that you always had on your list to do, but you never had the time to do? Now's the time to include it. And so when we talk about managing our time, I like to put these in like two boxes. And it's really simple. What is urgent? What is not urgent? A lot of times people think, I have to get this Excel sheet and I have to make it look really pretty and color code and all of that great stuff. That may work for some people. Again, you have to find what works best for you. You'll see behind me, I am a very thorough time manager. I want everything to be scheduled. I want to know when and where I need to be, what I need to do, what needs to be accomplished today, what is my goal for today. And so I have to write it down because I like the sense and feeling of accomplishment when I'm able to check it off my list, right? And so I write it down. Everything for this week is written on my board back here. And so as soon as I'm done, I'll get my pen, I'll go and I'll mark it off. And I'm like, if I got anything done today, it was this one thing, and I'm able to see it. And so looking and seeing, what is urgent on your schedule? Looking ahead. A lot of times we don't plan ahead where we're able to see, this is what I have on my plate this week. This is what I have scheduled to do. And so if we're planning ahead, we're able to say, okay, I need to be able to manage my time and cut back and allocate more time to this so that I'm not going to be as stressed when I get to the end. Also, another thing I find a lot of students really struggle with is delegation. I have had a love-hate relationship with delegation. And this is something that I personally struggled with as a student and even as a young professional when I first started out in my career. And it's because there's that sense of control, right? We want to make sure that it gets done, that, we have our touch on it. And I'm a perfectionist, and so I wanted to make sure that, we're crossing the T's, dotting the I's. And sometimes, especially right when you're working on group projects, making sure that we have assigned task. And what your task is, you're going to complete that and let it go. If other people in your group aren't holding or pulling their weight, hold them accountable. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you are overwhelmed, making sure that you're reaching out to your group and to your friends or instructors and saying, hey, can I get help? There is nothing wrong with asking for help. There is nothing wrong with that. And so making sure that you're looking at what is urgent, what's not urgent, and also finding what is the best way in order for you to kind of keep track. A lot of students will say, I'm old school. And so I like to write everything down. I have it in a planner. Obviously, I have it on my wall. And so I like to write it down because I need that visual reminder of I have this due today. This is an ongoing project. So if I have extra time in my day, this is what I can move on to next. What is it that works for you? A lot of times students will tell me that they put reminders in their phone. And so they have, in there, and I ask them, do you put a reminder on it to give you a notification that this is due? Or are you just simply relying on yourself to check your phone every now and then to see? Well, if we put it in an agenda or a planner or a phone, but we're not checking it, it doesn't work, guys. And so making sure that you are figuring out what is it that works for you. My kid, completely opposite of me. I've tried to get her to use a planner. I've tried to get her to put reminders in her phone. I even got her a Google Home to talk to tell her when things are due and how to schedule her day. Doesn't work. You know what works for her? Sticky notes. And so I got Post-it notes all over my house because she likes to write things down and put it up as a reminder. And when it's done, she takes it down. It drives me crazy because I'm like, what if we lose a sticky note? What if it falls off the wall and I throw it away by accident? But I have to remember that doesn't work for me. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work for her. And so far it has. And so I give her that grace. Also with time management is knowing that in managing our time, sometimes we get stuck in a schedule. And when we're stuck in a schedule, it's often really hard for us to change when things happen. But also knowing that in managing your time efficiently, sometimes we have to change our routine up. We have to change our schedule in order to make sure that we are being efficient and effective. And so if there is a time, if I get really, really exhausted in the afternoon, and so maybe I'm going to change my projects to my big, heavy projects that are due at the end of the day. I'm going to start those early in the morning so that I can give it all of my energy. And so we're going to shift to the last part, is how do we manage our energy? Guys, this is an ongoing battle, I think, not just for myself, but for a lot of people. And when we talk about managing our energy is everything when it comes to productivity. And so in being productive, if you have no energy behind it, you are going to drag, and it's going to feel like the longest day, the longest task, and it's gonna, for lack of better words, it's gonna suck. And so figuring out how do you manage your energy to where it works for you. Some of the things that I practice in regards to managing my energy, I'm a morning person. I'm also a night owl. I don't know how that really works out, but I find that I get a lot of work done and things that I enjoy late at night. And so I'll reserve energy and making sure that I'm able just to kind of have my downtime, just to kind of relax. And so that way I'll be recharged for the next day. In the morning, I like to get up, and the first thing is have my cup of coffee, right? And so not only is looking at energy of what are we putting into our bodies, right? And so making sure, going back to stress of, are we eating healthy? What are we putting into our body? Because there's some things that we can eat or drink that can give us a lot of energy, but then later on, it can also make us crash. And so be cognizant of that. Noticing your thoughts. And so I can't preach enough how our words and our thoughts really have a significant impact on everything that we do. Having, a positive mindset, it will help fuel your energy. It'll help being able to say, okay, I got this, or man, only one more hour. We're going to push through this. And sometimes, even when thoughts, I don't know about you, have any of you ever drove down the highway and you've seen that crazy lady just singing at the top of her lungs and the car just going at it? It's probably me. But at that point in time, like, that song is giving them energy, it's giving them life. And so sometimes I will play music in my office if I'm having a really rough day, or here at home. I have a station that I'll turn on. Many of you probably have a workout station you listen to while you're working out. It's very similar because it motivates and it encourages you. And so find that and begin to implement it in your daily lives and routines, and making sure that that's a part of the energy that you continue to bring to whatever it is that you're doing. And remembering that how you show up, it matters. And so if you show up and you're just like, oh God, that I can't do this today, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, versus, showing up and saying, I'm here, I'm present, I'm ready to learn, I'm excited to be here, it makes a huge difference. Being able to conquer big tasks first. And a lot of times people will say, I'm going to save that for last. I used to be notorious for saying that because I was like, I'm dreading it. So I felt that I had to work myself up to the big projects or the big things. And what I found later in life is that when I began to address the big issues, the big problems first, everything else started going really quickly. And it's all that big sense of accomplishment of, like, that checklist. If there's only one thing that I can mark off my list today, what is it? And if it's a very big task, great. If it's not, and it's all of the little tasks that moved you a little bit closer to completing that big task, great as well. Looking at how you complete your task and in what order. And, moving that back to your time management. Is it urgent? Is it not urgent? Is it an ongoing project, something that we can delegate? Is it something that we have to shift our schedule in and making sure that we can make it work? Another thing within energy is know your strengths. Know your strengths. Know your strengths, and also know that your strengths can deceive you. And when I say that, it's, we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. And sometimes when it comes to energy, there's these little things of temptation that can creep in, right? And that can steer us away and get us off our path of accomplishing or achieving it is that we set out to achieve. And so understanding that when there is a big task at hand, or if there's something that is urgent on our schedule that needs to be completed, of making sure that you stay in the mindset of knowing this is my focus. I cannot deter from what it is that I have to accomplish today. When I was in graduate school, I would sit at the dining room table and I would study. And I would, be in for 20, maybe 30 minutes. And then I would start looking around my house. And any and every little thing, I would feel like it was urgent. Like I would have to stop what I'm doing because I saw a dish in the sink. I got to get up and do the dishes. Or, oh, I have forgot to, fold laundry or do laundry. So I would get up and I felt like that was a need that I had to do. And so for me, I know that I can't be in this environment and be effective because I'm not focused enough on what it is I need to. So when I study, I know that I can't do that at home. I have to do it in a different place. Right now, obviously, it's something that we have to work with, right, and power through. But it's also making sure that if you know that's a weakness, who's holding you accountable of making sure that you are achieving or accomplishing those tasks. And so it's really important that we're reaching out, we're talking to people, and we're asking for help when we need it. The last thing in regards to your energy is remembering to adjust your physical and mental mentality. And so when I say, make a physical and mental adjustment, it's, when is it go time? My thing that I say every morning, to my kid is, let's get it. And that's kind of like our thing. Or if we're going out to a game, and we're driving in the car, I'm like, what's today's hype song? What's going to get us going? And knowing that sometimes we just have to make that shift, right? And physical adjustment, if you're feeling like, you've been sitting at your desk and you've been studying for a long time, give yourself permission to get up, go outside, walk around, do something that's going to take your mind off things, and then come back to the task. A lot of times when we give ourselves, mini breaks, and then we come back, we're able to come back with a clear mind, with more energy, and that's pretty much it. Short, sweet, and simple. A lot of times people think, managing, your stress, time, and energy is this big, profound, it's not. It's, figuring out and really taking time to see what works for you and what doesn't. And again, what I, shared earlier, what works for me may not work for you. And so talk to your friends, do your research, look online. There's nothing wrong with it. And, I didn't figure out, the best way to deal with stress until I was like in my mid 30s. I know I don't look that old, y'all, but it's, figuring out what works for you, and also knowing that what used to work for you, it may change. Over time, you may realize that, this is no longer working. And so taking time to say, okay, what is it that I can do different? What else is out there that exists? And figuring out what it is that you need in order to shift and live a healthier you. And so that's pretty much all I have today. Any questions or comments or things that you all would like to share as you are managing and how to manage your stress, your time, or your energy? Please feel free to share. With Wichita State Care Team, just a reminder that we're here for you. And so even though we are social distancing and we're working from home, still here to support our students every step of the way. And so if you feel like you're struggling and, really don't know how to, manage your time, I was talking to a student last week, and when I asked, what's your schedule look like? She said, well, I'm waking up at 1 o'clock, I'm sleeping in late, and I really just it's hard, and I'm behind in class, and it's different because I don't have to go. So an inside tip, okay? Your instructors and faculty can see when and how long you're logging into your Blackboard account. I never knew this until I was in graduate school. When my faculty called me and said, Alicia, it was Dr. Newell. Hey, Dr. G. I said, Alicia, I realized that you've not logged into your Blackboard account this week. Is everything okay? And at that moment, I was thinking, oh, snap. Like, I didn't realize they could see that. The only thing I thought that mattered was that I need to get my assignment done. Well, that week had been pretty horrific. A lot of personal things and just life things were happening. And I was so grateful that they took time to reach out to me to see, one, are you okay? Two, it's okay to not be okay. But three, it's not okay to struggle and not ask for help. And so that was a really great lesson that I learned. And so to go at it alone, we are here every step of the way. You can submit a report that will come, and someone from our team will reach out to you within 24 hours if you go to wichita.edu/care. You can also email care@edu, or send me a message. Either way, we're here to support you. Counseling and prevention services, they're open on campus. They're still seeing students on a daily basis. And so whatever it is that we can do to help you, know that we're here, we're on standby, and we're excited to see, where your paths and futures lead you to. If there's anything we can do, don't have to. Enjoy your day. Happy Tuesday. And I look forward to seeing everyone back here next week, same time, same place. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.